Well, welcome to the Gear Candy episode of 10-Minute Record Reviews. And this is a little video just to update folks who are interested in this kind of thing on the recent changes to my setup, not only in this room here, which is the listening room. There you can see, here's the gear and here's the records and so on, but also out in the studio slash home office slash man cave slash converted garage, which some of you will remember as a setting from some of the earlier videos in this channel, where I now have a second full setup going on. So let's talk you through. Well, as I mentioned the other day in my Don Cherry video, I had some good news from my health professionals. As some of you know, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer last year. I had surgery, they got it in time. Prognosis is good, but you know, you have to go and get checked every 6 months or so, and your heart's in your mouth a little bit when you go in for the checkup. Anyway, my 6-month checkup was good, and my 1-year checkup just a few days ago was good. So I was feeling pretty chuffed at that point. So I texted my wife and I said, I think I'm just going to go shopping downtown. She's like, oh yeah. Well, anyway, I went about a block downtown because a block away from my urologist is a fairly nice audiovisual retail shop. And what I did there was really walk in with no intent whatsoever, but I ended up coming out having significantly upgraded my turntable. So the table I got is this one. It is the Rega Planer 3 turntable. Some of you will know that I had a Rega RP1 before, which was fine. It has the new Rega cartridge. There's 3 different ones. There's the ND3, the ND5, and the ND7. Because I'm naturally a little bit Scottish, I got the ND3, but I have to say I was a skeptic about whether or not a change in turntable could significantly improve your sound. I am no longer a skeptic. I was shocked with the difference in clarity, in soundstage, in bass feel, in just retrieval of detail. This is a remarkably nice turntable. I am delighted with it. I bought it full price, I will say, because I was feeling, yay me, and what are you going to do? So it was a 4-figure sum in Canadian pesos. But I have to say, it was money well spent. Now, this is where the story gets interesting. So I put my Rega RP1 on Facebook Marketplace, and I got a reasonable price for it. I got 275 Canadian dollars for it, which wasn't too bad, considering it was an 8-year-old, 9-year-old table, what have you, and I was never particularly happy with it in the first place. Didn't really have any further plans, but as I was going on Facebook just to rate the buyer, because it had been a good transaction, some of you will know that I had these Bowers & Wilkins 684 S2 towers, which were pretty bass shy. I think I might have complained about them now and then. And the guys who sold me them, this high-end store here in town, also sold me a sub. I think they saw me coming and they knew that these towers were bass shy, and they sold me the sub. Anyway, I had this combination of these towers and this sub. I always hated the sub. I hated farting around with it. I hated trying to figure it out because it's beyond my technical capabilities. I never really felt like it gave particularly good sound. The speakers didn't give good sound of their own, and I ended up relying heavily on my bass boost button on my amplifier. Well, as I'm going out of Facebook Marketplace and I'm rating this buyer, saying 5 stars and so on, they push me an ad, and it's for a pair of circa 1989 Paradigm Eclipse monitor towers. And some guy, he's selling these 35-year-old, whatever it is, 40-year-old tower speakers, and they're huge. Get up there. I brought a turntable, but I neglected to bring an amplifier with me, and he had an amp that wasn't really working, so he ended up rescuing an old Sansui tuner out of a drawer. We managed to get some sound coming through the speakers, so I could tell that they worked, but the sound quality obviously was not very good. Anyway, he and I load these things, 65 pounds each, into my car, and then as I'm leaving, he says, oh, by the way, do you want a pair of bookcase speakers, exactly the same make and model and all the rest of it, just the bookcase version of these towers? And I said, sure. He threw them in for 50 bucks. Now, I wasn't really sure what I was buying. I remembered that Paradigm, which are a Canadian company, were a pretty good make. I think I subsequently learned that the Canadian government at that time had been plowing a lot of R&D money into speaker technology for whatever reason. So Canadian speakers from that period of time often are quite good. But I didn't really know what I was getting. What I was getting was these. And they sound effing amazing. I was absolutely blown away. In fact, after 10 seconds, and recall that I've been fussing with subwoofers for a decade, after 10 seconds of listening to the speakers, I'm already on Facebook Marketplace listing my sub for sale because I knew I would never need it again. These are the most bass responsive, detailed, rich, thick and creamy sounding speakers I've ever heard in my life. Again, they were like, I think, $375. So basically, I'm only now net out $100 in this whole Facebook Marketplace gig. But that's not the end of the story. So I'm now heading out to the converted garage slash art studio slash man cave slash home office slash you name it. Anyway, this became a bit of a dumping ground when I was, not well, but we have restored it to its former glory as a general hangout, and you'll see that here are those bookshelf versions of those paradigms which I have in the listening room, and these sound absolutely brilliant, I have to say. Now, you say, Alan, what's powering them? Well, first of all, let's just take the grills off because that's what these kinds of videos are all about. So it's basically the same speaker. Well, it's obviously smaller with one fewer woofer. One fewer woofers? One fewer woofer. Anyway, and you know, like I say, there's two of them. So what's driving these speakers? Well, I was feeling pretty chuffed about my skill set on Facebook Marketplace. Those of you who have watched the channel for a while will know that the amplifier that I normally run in the listening room is whatever it's called, a receiver, I guess, an HK450, a Harman Kardon 450, which hails from about 1978. I got it for $60. It is a fantastic device, really lovely, and can drive those great big speakers and can drive pretty much anything that you need to drive. That's not the first Harman Kardon amp I ever had. When I was a young pup in my 20s, first serious amplifier I ever bought was a Harman Kardon PM645, which I bought with my hard-earned money in the summer of 1985 in Kelowna, BC. And I happened to be on Marketplace yet again, and I saw a PM645 for sale locally for like $150. And so I asked if it was available, and it was, and here it is. So these are real little beauties. They have, I think, one of the nicest front faces of any amplifier from that particular era. As I say, it's a little bit more powerful than the HK450. Harman Kardons always look like they're not particularly powerful. My HK450, in theory, I think is rated at 30 watts a channel. I think this one is rated at 40. But they have this thing, and I can't really describe it. But basically, you get a lot more power when you need it. In other words, out of these amplifiers, and it'll give you a lot more oomph than those 40 watts a channel. Now, I assumed that this one was actually going to be my A-list amp and was going to replace my HK450, but I thought, you know, may as well do a side-by-side taste test just to compare. And I have to say, as good an amplifier as this is, and it is a good amplifier, the HK450 won, hands down. Just richer, warmer. Something about those 1970s receivers is just golden. So this is now out here driving the Paradigm control monitors, the bookshelf speakers I just showed you. Probably the weak link in the chain is this turntable, which does have a Nagaoka 110 cartridge on it. It is an Audio-Technica AT-LP USB, something like that. It's okay, but I know what the next step is in terms of upgrading if I ever choose to upgrade the my home office B-list scenario out here. But this is the satellite location, you know, I'm franchising my record listening. So this may just have to do for a while, and I'm pretty happy with the sound in general that I get out of here. So out here, it's the Audio-Technica, it's the PM645, a supremely shitty Sony CD player, which I never really used, but I just figured I should probably have one. And of course, the Paradigm bookshelf speakers. So just as a postscript, here I am back in the listening room, and this, of course, is the HK450. Just a lovely machine. It is really, I mean, I love my wife, but this is, you know, kind of my girlfriend, I suppose. Just to mention evil silver discs again. So I was thinking to myself, you know, I have a few CDs which I buy when I can't find what I want on vinyl. There's a few like that, or where the vinyl is just so ridiculously expensive, there's no point in buying it, and the CD is the only sensible option. But I wanted to get a decent CD player. So I knew that the current ones that were available that you get on Amazon, whatever, were crappy, and I didn't really want to spend thousands of dollars, if you can even do that, on a contemporary CD player these days. So I thought, well, I got to buy vintage. So I went to my local store, the guys that sell all the vintage techno junk, but they're also really good repair guys as well. Actually, I shouldn't be rude about them. It's not junk. They've got some really nice stuff in the store. So, funny story. So they had an Adcom GCD 375, I think it is, in the window. And I was chatting with the guys about CD players because I was waiting for my cartridge to be installed on my turntable. And he said, well, what about this one here in the window? And I said, oh yeah, I think I'd heard of Adcom. He says, oh, it's a great machine, great machine. Anyway, 150 bucks. I thought, well, I can't go wrong. So I get this thing and I take it home. It sounds terrific. However, within about 2 minutes, it's skipping, it's randomly resetting to the beginning of the track and so on. Well, this is no good. So anyway, the next day I take it back down there. The guy who sold it to me is a tech. The owner is there this time. And I bring in the CD player and I put it on the counter. And he looks at me. It's kind of a busy day and he didn't quite see me come in. He says, oh no, I'm sorry. He said, you can't buy that one. He said, it doesn't work. And I said, I just bought it. Your buddy just sold it to me 2 days ago or a day ago. He's like, what? Rob! Anyway, Rob, I guess, was in trouble. And so he took it back and I said, yeah, I can confirm it doesn't work. And he goes, yeah. He says, and if you'd kept playing it, it would have got even worse. So then he said, by the way, are you still looking for a CD player? And I said, well, actually, I kind of am, I guess. What do you got? So what he sold me was a Sony SA-CD player. Not quite sure the vintage. It's a SCD XC670, but it sounds pretty good. So anyway, so now this is the rig here. 3 out of 4 components, well actually 2 out of 3 components are new here, and then another component, a 4th component, has been added. This is the only veteran from the entirety of the channel. I am absolutely loving the sound I'm getting, and I would love to hear your own sound journeys in the comments if you choose to share them. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you soon.